Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, regardless of the time zone. My name is Rodolfo Hernandez from the University of Texas at Dallas Intercultural Programs. It's my pleasure, my honor to welcome you to this virtual information session for all new international students coming to UT Dallas. Join us in UT Dallas in fall 2025. We know that you have many options, that you have many other destinations that you were considering during your deliberation process. We know that you were thinking maybe about Australia, Germany, Canada, and many other regions, geographies. But certainly you're coming to the University of Texas at Dallas, United States, Texas, and we really appreciate that you're pursuing that choice together with us because we want to ensure that you have a successful academic and cultural experience. We welcome you, and certainly the design of this series of virtual info sessions, we hope that you will have plenty of information in advance to smooth your transition from your home community to your new community, the University of Texas at Dallas. I would like to acknowledge and appreciate the support from the Intercultural Programs team, specifically Carl Tyler for coordinating all these virtual info sessions, who will be facilitating this session today, and as well Neil Dave, a student worker, Intercultural Programs assistant, who is providing technical support behind the scenes to ensure that this presentation is as smooth as possible. And also, I would like to welcome my colleague from the Office of Graduate Education, Beth Catlin, who is going to be presenting on behalf of this office, Graduate Education, all this helpful information, resources, and the perspective of this specific office to ensure that you have the guidance and the basic tools to enhance your success pursuing your graduate program at the University of Texas Dallas. We know that most of the new international students are pursuing graduate programs at UT Dallas, and that's why it's so relevant, this info session. Regarding the event logistics, you can see us and you can hear us, but we cannot see you or hear you. And submit your questions in the question box on the right side of your screen at the end of this presentation. So if you are reacting to any of the elements of this presentation or this virtual info session, please write down your questions to yourself, and at the end, please share with us in the right side of your screen where the question box will show up for you. The event is being recorded and will be posted within 48 business hours in our YouTube channel. Welcome to visit the webpage of International Student Orientation, where you find hyperlink to our YouTube channel. The links and emails that will be mentioned, shared during this presentation will be provided again during the Q&A session at the end, during the question and answer session at the end of this presentation. So don't really feel that you have to hold all this amazing information coming from Beth Haley and facilitated by Carl Tyler. No further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Beth Haley to begin this presentation, this session. Thank you, Beth, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And yes, to echo what Rodolfo says, wherever you are in the world, welcome. Whatever time it is, welcome. We are glad you're here. My name is Beth Keithley. I am the Fellowship Advisor in the Office of Graduate Education. I say that specifically because for a lot of you, that doesn't mean anything, which is fine. It doesn't mean a whole lot in my family either, which is not a critique. But my point being that before you come to UTD, as you come to UTD, you are here to learn, and we do not think you know everything. We don't think any student who starts out here knows everything. So if at any time during my presentation you have a question, because I say something like fellowship, and you don't understand what that means, please just put the question in the chat. And that, next slide, please, kind of transitions into what our office does. So every university everywhere in the world does things a little differently because we can, but one of the main things that we do, and I promise by the end of this presentation, you will understand what is specific to the Office of Graduate Education and what is specific to your school. And so many of you, for example, are going to be students in the School of Management or the School of Engineering and Computer Science. They will be your main support center just because of how the University of Texas at Dallas is organized. However, there is programming that either isn't done by the school or all the schools need, and that is where we come in. So I know this is a very old picture, but it is the old-fashioned switchboard operator where somebody would call and the switchboard operator would get you to the right place. I would say that a good 80% of interactions with the Office of Graduate Education are students coming in and saying, I don't know who to ask this question to, but I feel like it is something that, and I need some guidance. So if you ever contact our office and what you hear is, well, that's not our area, but let me get you to somebody who can help you. That is our job. That is not something you need to apologize for or feel embarrassed for, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that wasn't you. No, you are probably going to get one, maybe two graduate degrees over the course of your, over your career. We work with hundreds, thousands of students every semester. So yes. So I am a believer in the clarifying question. If you've got a question, feel free to come in. So how does one do that? Next slide, please. These are the best ways to reach us. This is a picture of Founders Annex. We actually will be, I think, in 2027, be moving to a new building, but we're here right now. So we are in Founders Annex 3.104. I will tell you, I am also very skeptical of the idea that if I send an email to something that doesn't have a person attached to it, I will never hear back from them. But I will tell you that we are all assigned as a staff to go into that email box and answer any questions assigned to us. So when in doubt, you can email me, but oftentimes oge@utdallas.edu is the best way to get an answer because there is, 15 people on it, checking that box and making sure that people are getting their questions answered. Phone number, and we are on LinkedIn and Instagram. I will tell you, full disclosure, it is summer and we don't do a lot of posting in the summer because there's just not a lot of activity going on right now. We'll get back to it, but if you jump on Instagram, our Instagram account or our LinkedIn account right now, I assure you there's very little happening there, but that's okay. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, you're going to keep seeing this email address, but I do want you to be aware of it. That is a picture of our dean, Juan Gonzalez. You will undoubtedly see him at an event. He is he's great. He is in the office today, but I believe he's coming to do some, I think he's going to be in Mexico this afternoon, actually. But this is our mission. We are committed to, I'm going to not read this to you, but the way Dean Gonzalez puts it is our job to welcome you, help you succeed, and let you go on your way. So we're glad you're here. We want you to get everything you can out of UTD, and then we want you to leave. So that is our mission statement in a little more generic terminology. So 3 areas in which we work directly with students. Dissertation thesis. I am telling you this not because I think you should already be thinking about your dissertation or thesis, but one of the goals for this presentation is that over the course of our chat today, you will remember that there was something. Oh yeah, no, I vaguely remember there was something about dissertations, and let me look back and see if I can figure out what that was. There's professional and career development. We will be diving into that more in a minute. And then fellowships, which is what I do, which Basically, I help students find and apply for external funding. Again, a sentence that often we have to deep dive into, and that is not the goal for today. Next slide, please. So, as I said at the top, with the idea that we connect people, we will help you work with your department or your school. We will also connect you with other groups on campus. So here's a list. I'm not going to read it to you, but we work closely with the Center for Teaching and Learning. Obviously, if we weren't close with offices, we wouldn't be invited to talk to these presentations. But again, when you have a question, the answer might be, that's a question for the University Career Center, or that is the question for the library. I will tell you right now, one of the secrets that I wish every incoming student knew was that the McDermott Library has a reference librarian for your school. They call them, I think, subject matter experts, which is not to say you could walk into the library and say, I have a question about my physics, but you have somebody who really understands all the databases and information and how to find answers to questions about physics or computer science or cybersecurity. So one of the first things I recommend you do, and I think the library actually does do a presentation, but take that seriously. Who is the librarian? Your librarian on campus can be your best friend, especially for students who know that they're going to be doing a lot of paper writing, a lot of lit reviews, and there may be a dissertation in your future. But take advantage of all of these resources. And next slide, please. All right, how do you figure out what we are doing, which is often a question. Full disclosure, we send a lot of emails. What will start to happen in the fall semester, probably in actually we'll do it a little earlier, probably mid-August, you will start getting on Tuesday an email from us that says weekly events. You will get so many emails from so many people over the course of your career that in your time at UTD that probably will make you a little sad, but you'll get the email on Tuesday, open the email, see if there's anything you're interested in, and if not, delete it and move on. But oftentimes, it would be great if there were a different way to communicate with you. But again, if I had your number so that I could text you, your text inbox would turn into your email inbox. So just check your email, especially on Tuesdays, see what we're doing that you may be interested in. Next slide, please. I'm going to do a couple of save the date events. These are two big events that we do every year. The first one is going to be on September 11th of 2025. It is our resource fair. The goal of this event, and that is a picture, I think, literally from last year. So we will take over the visitor center atrium, and we will have all of our partners, we will invite all of our partners to come and introduce themselves to you. One of the reasons why we do it a couple of weeks after the semester starts is, frankly, because we feel like by mid-September, you're willing to, you know who your professors are, you know, if relevant to you, where your lab is, you figured out the housing situation, you figured out the bus route, and now you want to talk about the writing. You know, now you're like, okay, I feel like I have, the ground is solid underneath me, and now I have questions. Now I'm going to go talk to the library. Now I'm going to go talk to the counseling center. Now I'm going to talk to the Office of Research and figure out how I can get certified in responsible conduct of research. So now I'm going to start doing these things. That is what this is. We usually have about, honestly, 40 tables. And I'm not going to say everyone you want to talk to is there, because that is just not true. But but it will be in the afternoon from, I believe, 2 to 4:30. It's a come and go event. Come, see everybody, get your questions answered, pick up pens, t-shirts, whatever. And then, but it's a good opportunity to sort of go, oh, I didn't know this, but it's early enough in your time at UTD that you haven't missed it, that this is an annual event. The other one I'd like you to save the date for. Next slide, please. I don't actually have a date for, but this is an Ask Me, it's Ask Me Anything. Yes, we stole the idea from Reddit and then, took it back to the last decade because it is in person and over Teams. But sometime in January 2026, we will have an event on campus where you can come and talk to myself, Ruth Schimmer, who is my supervisor, who handles professional development. You'll be able to talk to the dissertation team. And the whole idea is ask me anything. So a lot of times what will happen is students, frankly, who came to the first event that I mentioned on September 11th will come to the January event and say, okay, now the ground underneath me is even more solid. I've got a semester, I'm organized, and now even though it's a little early, I want to start thinking about my dissertation, or I want to think about what a resume would look like based on my professional goals. Or Beth keeps saying that she helps students find and apply for external funding, and I still don't quite understand what that means. That is the event for you. Come, it again, very casual. The idea is for you to feel welcomed. And I have found from my perspective, this will be the third time we've done this event, and it is, again, from my perspective, the best, if you'll excuse the expression, bang for my buck in terms of time. I spend all day talking to students, and the resources that I can hand out are extremely useful, but also I get a good sense of what I need to be doing better in order to get you the resources that we need. So often after this event, a lot of really great things happen. Next slide, please. I do want to talk about online tools, especially for students who maybe don't have who are either introverted or a little shy or don't quite know how to get started and feel more comfortable talking to people after they've got a little more information. So we have two online tools that are great. They are, I'm not going to say related to each other, but essentially Beyond the Professoriate is an online professional development that you have free access to because UTD has a membership. So Beyond the Professoriate, which I'm going to mispronounce several times, is for, it says, the text from the slide is directly from their website. They will tell you it is for graduate students, and it is. I would advise that master's students who want to explore the Beyond the Professoriate be a little more interested in potentially getting a PhD. And if you have no interest in getting a PhD, which is fine, you don't have to if you don't want to explore the Beyond Graduate School, which is a little more specific to master's students who do not want to get a PhD. So when I shorthand this for students, either at the resource fair or the Ask Me Anything or in an email, I will say Beyond the Professoriate is for PhDs and postdocs, Beyond the grad or PhD curious, and Beyond Graduate School is for master's students. But these are available to you at any time. There are online recordings. You can access things, but they are great resources, especially if you've got a question at 2 a.m. Dallas time, and frankly, who hasn't? And you want to get an answer that does not, you want to get a response. Those are so as a UTD student, you have access to them. Next slide, please. So some other resources, and again, I don't expect you to remember any of this. I just am hoping that you will hear them, and when we start asking questions, we can dive a little bit more into the details. So fellowship support, that's me. We have a grant writing certificate program that's becoming, we're looking into revising that as a badge system. In a nutshell, some of you are going to be interested in grant writing. You are exploring a career that requires grant writing, but don't actually want to write a grant. Or frankly, for my master's students, it can be, it's a bit of a time crunch to come to campus, figure out what it is that you want to do, find a job, write a fellowship, all that stuff, and graduate in a timely manner. The grant writing gives you the skills, gives you the experience without the timeline of fellowship advising, which can be extensive. For my PhD students, there is a dissertation research award. It is an annual program that takes applications. The application deadline is in April. And I do a bunch of workshops on application writing and have resources available. So if you're interested in a fellowship, if you are a PhD student and are looking for dissertation funds, or hey, a badge in grant writing could be extremely useful since I'm interested in potentially nonprofit management, that's there for you. I will tell you at the moment, we are in the process of hiring a new writing support person, which is why I do not have a picture for you or contact information because applications are being accepted. Whoever that person is, which is why I'm being vague, I just don't know. They will do one-on-one consultations, they will do workshops, and there will be writing groups. What the current plan is, and again, we will find out later, but that the dissertation team will all do some consulting on writing. So there's, as a shorthand, just so that you understand the difference, because I have talked about writing grants, and so what exactly is this writing support and why is this in a different group? There is academic writing, which is what I'm talking about right now with the open position, and there'll be writing groups and workshops. And then I focus on grant writing, slightly more technical writing, public engagement, science communication for the public. That's kind of the difference, or how we define that difference. And then so the writing support should, if all goes well, move into the thesis and dissertation support. I want you to, again, you're incoming students, so I want you to know that yes, from the minute you arrive, we are hoping that all will go well, and we are trying to help you get out the door having met all your goals. So I want you to hear that it's there, but I also don't want you to start thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't even gotten to Dallas yet and I need to think about my defense. No, just know that when you're ready, we are there for you. Next slide, please. Okay, these are things you will probably, that happen in our office, and you will probably never interact with the staff who does it, and that's fine. Lots of things get done behind the scenes, and that is not a problem. That being said, if you get contacted by somebody in our degree certification and verification group, that doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. But you might get an email from somebody in our office who, and you think, I've never heard of this person. And what they are doing is making sure that when you leave UTD with a degree that says you graduated from UT Dallas, there is consistency and quality to it, so that 15 years from now, oh, UTD, great, not. So that is what's happening there. I'm going to take just a second to pause and say, we do not hire teaching or research assistants. We oversee policies and compliance with those. If you want to think of us as the HR of teaching and research assistants, that's not entirely accurate, but certainly if you come to campus and ask about how to get an assistantship, I will tell you right now. So you don't have to be on campus yet. That is something that your department that your program does. And so talk to your School of Management advisor, talk to engineering, natural science and mathematics, the BAS school, whoever your school or department is, they will be the ones who have the funding and the assistantships and the program for how to make that happen for you. So yes, research teaching assistants, we do an orientation and we do some policies and some other compliance issues. You will, if you are an assistant, probably you have already heard from us, but we do not hire, which is unfortunate, but just know that to be true. Next slide, please. Yes. Okay. So my goal was to get this done in about 30 minutes, and I'm going to do that. Here's the thing. I want to answer your questions. So I will stay as long as you want me to answer your questions. But I want this to be the final slide because I want you to remember we are here to help, because we are. The best way, if you do not know who to ask, is just to send an email, which is that oge@utdallas.edu. And I am more than happy, and whoever you get will send you to the right place. Happy to do it. We do not think you walk on campus knowing everything. There is no way. I have worked on this campus for, longer than some of you have been alive. It will be truly 24 years. And as a result, and I don't know everything either. So no one expects you to walk in knowing everything about how UTD works. Please ask. You are here to learn. Let us be part of that process. And with that, I'm going to thank you for your time and your attention, especially if this is not your usual time to be awake, and look forward to seeing you on campus.
Thank you so much, Beth. We really appreciate you joining us again. And thank you to all of you who are joining us. My name is Carl. I'm with Intercultural Programs with ICP, and we're going to go ahead and open up the questions now. The Q&A has been opened. I've also posted all of the emails and links that Beth mentioned during her presentation in as a discussion and pinned it to the top of the Q&A box, so you can copy and paste all of those, and you have some reading to do, right? I really, before we have any questions come through, I really wanted to comment on your analogy that you made, Beth, about switchboard operator. I think that is a great analogy.
Thank you. I'm hoping at some point it's going to age out. I remember, and this is going to put some age to everything in my life, but I remember when my Maroon 5 had a song, Payphone, and I had to explain literally what I was like. He's what? So I had to explain it. But I do think, yes, but that's a lot of times that's what we do. I'll have a student come in, who'll walk into the office and say, I have a question. Great. And I will say, I might not be the person. I'm probably not the person, but tell me your problem and let me get there to you. Because I do think I don't want to waste this person's time. And frankly, getting a student to the right person to get their question answered is not a waste of my time, ever. It's just, I might not know the answer.
And this topic is something that we touch on during orientation, and kind of what we do. One of our mandates, one parts of our mission at ICP is that, culturally speaking, many times universities in the United States, certainly UT Dallas, are going to be highly, depending upon the culture where the student's coming from, are going to be highly decentralized compared to what they might be used to back home. And so one of the many aspects of cultural shock has to do with students not knowing where to go for what. Or maybe sometimes we have a service or a resource here that doesn't exist in the home country, and they may not know it exists. So offices like Office of Graduate Education, as well as ICP, a lot of times we are referring students to the appropriate department that oversees what they're asking for. And like you mentioned, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason for them to feel inadequate for not knowing.
No, yes.
That's why we're here, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay, we do have, I knew that we were going to have some questions probably related to assistantships.
Yes.
And so the first question was, when will the TA orientation tentatively be for the fall semester?
Oh, this is such a good question because
Mm,
you will hear the most common answer that comes out of, and it's a perfect transition from what you were saying about decentralization.
mhm.
Um, that varies by school and program. It is usually, so that's the answer, frankly. Depending on what the program is, it varies. Um, that being said, it is usually a little bit not. It is usually about the week before classes begin on the campus, but please reach out to your school or department and find out there.
Wonderful. Yep, decentralization.
Yeah, sorry, but that's honest.
It's
That's
true.
honestly the answer. That's not me ignoring or poo-pooing the question. It is a good, like, I want to make sure I am on campus on time so that I can go to the orientation so that I can get paid. Yes, yes, you do.
And
I
in this,
just
oh yeah,
No, go
definitely.
ahead.
And in this, oh, I was going to say in this specific regard, um, this is one aspect which, or one example of how a lot of times, more so than some other countries, departments are given more academic freedom when it comes to managing their own affairs, I guess.
For sure. And I am more than happy to buy a student a cup of coffee and go. I will argue either side of that debate because I do not know how I feel. There are days where I'm like, well, of course you don't want, I mean, I would never, but you don't want me deciding if you should be a computer science teacher. But also, it means that things in management are different from things in computer science,
Hmm.
which are different from things in natural science and mathematics, which again, good or bad. So I, I have not decided exactly what I think on it, but since no one has put me in charge of opening a university, I can waffle on this forever. But let's see.
I get mixed feelings too.
Yeah,
So
it's sort of,
it can
yeah.
be confusing sometimes. Yeah, I get it. So question about dissertations. A student said they wanted to, they've been wanting to write a dissertation
Okay.
for a while and wanted to ask which time would be best for them to start. So if you can suggest a timeline, as someone who's upcoming fall student studying finance.
Okay. So I'm gonna, so a dissertation is a PhD, the final paper that you write for a PhD. A
Mhm.
thesis is optional in many programs and not required at many programs at UTD and is for master students. And then a paper is something that you will write. In finance, I think you write them a bunch. My recommendation is if you are thinking about, and I'm not doing this to poo-poo the question, I'm doing the understand the definitions of the words I am using as I am answering this question. Um, so a dissertation, usually what happens is you are on campus for maybe like 4 or 5 years. You will start working on papers, you will do lit reviews, you will start working through that process. And by year, again, if it's a PhD student, um, by year 2, 3, I mean, you're kind of they're always kind of moving you towards that. But if this is going to be your first time, I keep going back to a lit review because lit reviews are,
Mhm.
no one writes a lit review until they have to write a lit review. And that is, I would just, if you've got a paper and like write a critique of with a lit review, the sooner the better. But my advice to when to get started would be the not your first semester here. Your first semester, it is very much like it's probably the only way your undergraduate experience has a one-to-one connection with your graduate experience. Take that first semester, of your first year, figure your place in the universe, ask the questions, start working on your network, know where the good if you're obviously I'm a coffee drinker, but know where the good coffee shop is, know what your support structures is, get a sense of that that foundation, and then in the second semester start, okay, now I kind of understand, let's go ahead and get started. Now that timeline is completely based on the idea that you are a PhD student and you've got those years. If you are a master's student, I would, my advice would be within the first week or two, go to the library, figure out who you would be looking for it's called the EPS contact, and get started, especially if there are questions that you have really about anything to do with how do I get started on this? What is the different, what is the citation style at UTD for my discipline? Get a sense of those things. It's never too early to start.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned the library during the presentation as well as in answering this question, and that reminded me just to let students know, this is on our International Student Orientation webpage. We have two tours that we co-sponsor with the library, where you'll get to, a tour will be guided. It's a guided tour by the librarian, and they cover I guess, what was the term? Research librarians, the librarians who are know about specific topic or school that they're studying in. Just keep in mind those tours are going to be we have one on Friday, August 15th, and then also one on Wednesday, August 20th. It's not just the library on those days. We have several other tours and presentations, and on our international student orientation webpage, we actually have a list of them with the dates, times, and locations of all of the optional tours and presentations. For graduate students, this is certainly a good session. And if somehow you miss that, they do give regular tours quite frequently, especially in the beginning of the terms.
Yeah, I cannot stress that enough. I have talked to more students who, oh, well, I think of the library, and I get it. Like, oh, I'm going to be writing everything and doing my research from my apartment. I'm not going to be getting a study room in the library. And take advantage of the tour. Talk about Web of Science. We have, just you will be surprised in a good way.
Yes, absolutely. I have another question about assistantships regarding payments. Wanting to know what the payment dates would be and whether or not they would be paid during winter break. Is that again another departmental question?
That is, and yes, and I do think when you get a TA-ship, part of the orientation for the TA-ship is talking to human resources and getting that information. So if that question, so whoever asked about when is the TA orientation, I would start a list for yourself of I cannot leave the TA orientation until I understand these things. And I would put that winter break question on it, because that is a good one. And I think I know the answer, but I'm not going to say it while we're being recorded because I'm not going to be wrong on that one.
Perfectly understandable. Yes. Grant writing certificate question.
Yeah.
What are the eligibility requirements and timeline for this certificate?
You have to be a student at the University of Texas at Dallas. And since we are transitioning it to a badge program, I think there will be, once we have that figured out, and literally I've got a meeting next week to discuss it with that process, but that's the eligibility. That's it. You have to finish it before you graduate. And that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And interestingly, badging systems are becoming very are becoming the standard now.
Yeah, we're gonna have
cool.
a couple. It's very cool because I had this very intense program, and it was one of those situations where I had this vision, it's called the curse of knowledge. Everyone wants to know everything that I know about grant writing, and no, that's blatantly not true, and that's fine. But it also meant that the first program I put together needed to be scaled back a little bit because people were like, I really just want to understand the rubric of how to write a grant, what people look for, and then I want to move on. But yes, I would, so for the person interested in that, I would, that will be early in the semester when you get here. I just, right now, what is it, June 25th? I don't know, but I should know before before classes start in the fall what the timeline is, and I would be more than happy to chat with you then.
And this question is just out of personal curiosity. Is part of that certificate program, does that begin with or include like how to research and find different databases of grants
Yes.
themselves?
Yes. So it can get, I don't want to say really nerdy, but it can get really nerdy. So we will, yes, who funds your research, how to figure out where that is and how to find it. One of the databases that we have on campus is Pivot, which is one of the largest databases for finding funding based on your interests, who you are. Yeah, I'm gonna stop now though, because people are gonna want to do something else other than talk about Pivot. But yes, one of the regular questions. But that's one of the regular questions, right? Because it's like, I want a grant. How do I find one? Because if you just Google, it's not going to work. But yes, that is one of them.
Cool. Well, there's nothing wrong with getting nerdy. This is UT Dallas.
It's
comment
true.
culture is nerd culture, right?
I'm not entirely sure what people can see of my screen behind me, but my office is extremely pop cultured.
All right, let me see if I can find some other questions here. I think one more came through. Okay, here's a question about scholarships or funding. How and when should we apply for external funding or scholarships as incoming graduate students?
Oh, I see Rodolfo. The earlier the better. Rodolfo is correct. So for master's students, it can be extremely tricky because honestly, the external funding timeline, it can take a year. So let's say you walked onto campus on, it's not going to be September 1, but I'm just picking that as random. So you walk into my office on September 1 and say, I want funding. Great. Love to help. And then we find something that is due that next week. That's not going to happen. But let's just pretend. Let's just let all that go. So you are applying for you've got all your pieces together and all is gorgeous. And September 8th, you hit apply. Well, it's probably going to be sometime a year from now, so June 2026, when you find out if you get it. And then when are you graduating? Because if you don't get that funding until September of 2026, if you're a master's student, you may be out the door, which is there. I will tell you right now, do not stay on the hope that you will get funding as an incoming graduate student. And that's one of the most common questions I get about, like, oh, I'd like to find some funding. Well, as a graduate student, a master's student specifically, that might not be, that doesn't mean there isn't things you can do. If you're interested in politics or policy, there is an Archer Fellowship that the time on that is a little shorter, but as a general answer to that question, I agree with Rodolfo's answer. The sooner the better. Come on campus once you come on campus, but if you are looking for funding in order to, if you're looking for funding quickly, which is a different, funding quickly in my universe means fall or spring semesters, I would recommend the financial aid office.
Okay.
And the list here is good. It's not my favorite thing about fellowships, but it is what it is.
So it sounds like in many cases, is particularly when it comes to being a master's student, looking at that funding or those scholarships as something that's supplemental and not something essential just because of the timeline and the length of the process.
Yes, there is an assumption, whether it is accurate or not, that if you are getting a master's degree, it is because you are going to work in industry and you probably either have a job or know, this is quick to get some skills that you need so that you can advance in your program, in your career goals. The fellowship, and then if you are a PhD student, the assumption is you have some more time, and there are, dissertation research award, dissertation completion awards that, will be for 2 or 3 years.
All right. Well, I'm not sure. I don't think I have any other questions. Do you have any advice that you would, based on your experience and working with graduate students, do you have any advice in general, but also specific for UTD graduate students as far as their first steps coming here?
Yes, I do. The first one is, and I've said it several times, but it's worth saying one more time. Be willing to ask the question. I think especially at UTD, often our students are a little introverted and a little shy, which is fine, but they want to find the answers for themselves, and I don't want to say get into trouble, but there's a point let me look just one more time. Just ask the question. Just ask the question. If no one talks to us, we don't have a job. And that's not why we answer your questions, obviously, but you can look at it that way. Like if she said that if I needed help finding somebody, that was the email to use. Use the email. There's also so that's be willing to ask the question. I will also stress that, and this is because this is the time of year where we see a lot of students come in. Nothing will happen as quickly as you want it to. And so I deal with a lot of, and I get it in my personal life. I have the same situation too, where it's like, I emailed about that yesterday, and here I am 12 hours later, and I still don't have an answer. Patience is a virtue. I would say wait, depending on the day. So if it's Friday, if you send an email Friday at 7 p.m. Dallas time and don't hear back by Monday at 8 a.m., you've hit business. I think Rodolfo said at the top that the video would be posted 48 business hours. And I think that is an important, in your head, think, has it been 48 business hours? And then go ahead. Also, when students take advantage of what we have, I know I've really just been talking about the library, but I think a lot of students come on campus and see the counseling center, and yes, please, when the emails come, and just take advantage. We are here to support you and give you the tools that you need. It's pretty easy to get siloed in I need to get my degree. I need to make sure, everything in my family is going well, and then I need to get a good job, and I need to get out, and I need to get home. And that is true, but you're here for a couple of years. Take advantage of, the graduate social hour. Take advantage of 3-minute thesis competition. Take advantage of the fact that you can get badging in grant certificates or teaching, or just explore a little bit and meet people, ask questions, and have a good time. getting a graduate degree is extremely difficult. And there will be times where you will ask yourself, why did I do this? And when those happen, and they will, just kind of take a moment. There's no prize for speed.
That's some good advice, especially taking a break, coming up for air.
Come on,
Don't
yeah,
get siloed. Yeah.
yeah. There's something in computer science about touching grass, and I don't really understand what that means. But I get the idea that sometimes you need to like walk outside and. But yeah.
Some fresh air.
Yes.
Exactly. Speaking of Global Grad Social Hour, I'll take a moment
Yes.
to mention it. This
Please
is
plug it.
something that OGE does, or the Office of Graduate Education does in collaboration with us, and it is scheduled for, it's going to be one of the first events as part of the Weeks of Welcome. So the Weeks of Welcome is a series of events that are welcoming and incoming new students as well as returning students during the first couple of weeks of the semester. And this particular event that's happening during that Global Grad Social Hour, that's going to be on Thursday, the 4th of September. And this is an event where graduate students get to mingle with each other as well as ICP and the Office of Graduate Education. There'll be food. There'll also be some nice prizes as well.
Nice
So
prizes.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And also, if you think, hey, I would like to meet the dean, if 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 Dean Gonzalez is in town, he will be there. He is a regular. It's one of his favorite events. He really does like talking to students.
Oh yeah, I'll be there shaking hands and kissing babies, right?
But that, to your point, that transitions really nicely. That is an opportunity to, get some air, meet some people, and it's a couple of hours, and then to decompress.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much being with us today and sharing more information to our graduate students about the Office of Graduate Education and giving us some good tips and advice. Before we leave today, I do want to mention, again, at the top of the hour, Rodolfo had mentioned our student employee, our ICP assistant, Neil Dave, who has been operating the PowerPoint behind the scenes, making sure that we're your visual aids are there for you. So thank you so much. And then also, in addition to Rodolfo answering your questions in the Q&A, we also have another program coordinator of ours, Kushali Shah. So thank you again to Kushali for helping out. Want to mention our next virtual information session. We're so happy to bring these to you as you prepare for your journey and your first semester here at UT Dallas. Our next one is going to be a week from today on Wednesday, wow, it's already going to be July. Wednesday, July 2nd. And it is the orientation. We're going to be hosting some officers from the Indian Students Association. So if you are a student from India and you want to get a perspective from another Indian student here at UT Dallas, and also learn more about this very large and active student organization, please join us during that time. And again, as Rodolfo mentioned, if you're not able to make it during that time, these will be posted onto YouTube. Also, another thing I wanted to mention, all of the links and emails, hyperlinks, things like that will be a part of the YouTube description video if you're watching this on YouTube. So, well, thank you all for joining us. Again, Beth, it's always a pleasure to have you join us for these sessions.
Good to
We
see
look
you.
forward to the next time.
Yes.
All right.
It'll be
Y'all
good,
take
and look
care.
forward to seeing you guys soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care and have a good evening, morning, wherever you happen to be. We'll see you next time.